Welcome back to the garage. Today we're going to remove the rear brakes on the E93M3 in preparation for the installation of a big brake kit by StopTech. First step is to take the wheels off. Always check the battery on your impact gun first. So with a fresh battery, simply remove the 5 lug bolts that are holding the wheel on. Do this all the way around the car to remove all 4 wheels. One point, if you don't have an impact gun, which you probably should, it's a great investment. If you don't have an impact gun, you're going to need to hold the front wheels still when removing the lug bolts. You'll need to have a friend help you by putting the brakes on while you take the wheels off. The first step for removing the calipers is to remove the retaining clip on the caliper. This takes a little bit of effort, and if it hasn't been removed in a while, it may be a little bit difficult. Just have a little patience. The back end swings out as you place pressure on it with your thumbs. You'll feel when it goes. It'll go all at once. With the clip removed, the next step is to remove the brake wear sensor. This is only on the passenger rear brake and the 2 front brakes. Just simply disconnect the cap from the bleed screw and pull the wear sensor straight out, and then remove it and pull it out of the way. It'll be bundled up at the end of the process when we install the big brake kits. For now, we just need to get it out of our way. The caliper assembly is accessed from the back. There are 2 bolts that hold the anchor plates onto the vehicle, as well as 2 covered boots that house the slide pins that the caliper slides on. You'll need to remove the caps from the boots in order to get the slide pins, and then there's the Allen head screw on the end of the slide pins. A little bit of anal retentive terminology. The brake line is the fixed line that goes that's attached to the vehicle. The brake hose is the flexible line that attaches to the brake line. So just wanted to get that out of the way. To remove the slide pin, we use an Allen wrench attached to a socket. You just put that in there and pull them out. You'll actually want to loosen the top one almost all the way first. Prior to removing that slide pin, go down to the lower one and loosen that one, and actually remove the lower one first, and then come back and remove the top ones second. It'll just be easier if the calipers start to move on you to get the whole assembly off. So having removed the lower slide pin, we now finish loosening up the upper slide pin and remove that as well. With both slide pins removed, just grab the caliper, not the anchor plate, and wiggle it around until you feel it start to move. It'll slide straight back from the rotor, and once it comes off, it'll pretty much pop free. It's attached by the brake hose, so be careful not to damage that. We won't be reusing it in this case, but if you're doing a brake pad change, you'd want to keep that in good condition. The pads simply pull out of the calipers. The vehicle side of the caliper pad simply it kind of comes out of a pocket on the piston itself. And if you were to be reusing this, you'd want to take a look at the boot around the piston, make sure there's no cracks or damage, no bulging, no leaking fluid, anything that would indicate that the caliper needs to be rebuilt, which isn't too terribly hard either, but in this case we're getting rid of it, so we're not going to worry about that too much. After the caliper is removed, you can take the anchor plate off. There's 2 bolts that hold that on, and we'll just pull those off in order to take it off. It's not a 14mm socket, not a 15mm socket. Next standard socket size is 17, and that's way too loose, so it's got to be 16. I don't know about your socket set. I don't have a 16, so I can't put a 16 on there, but I do have a 5/8, and 5/8 happens to be the same as 16 millimeters. So if you ever need a 16, just grab a 5/8, you'll be fine. So we'll use our 5/8 socket to remove the 16 millimeter bolt. A little bit of finessing on the wrench, and it should come out fairly easily. There's top and bottom. Again, loosen the top, loosen the bottom, remove the bottom bolt first, and then come back and remove the top bolt. It'll just keep things from moving around on you, and it'll make it a lot easier to take the whole assembly apart. Once you remove the bolt, inspect it, make sure there's no wear on it, make sure the corners of the bolt are in good condition, check the flange. We will be reusing this bolt in the assembly of the big brake kit, so you want to make sure that everything is in good condition. It will be reused. If not, buy another one and plan on replacing it. And again, remove the top one second, holding the anchor plate as you remove the bolt. Once it's released, both the bolt and the anchor plate will come clear of the vehicle, and you can see how that fits onto the car as well. So the anchor plate just has a flat surfaces. The bolts come in from behind, and it holds the caliper over the disc itself. The next step is to remove the rotor retaining screws. These are very shallow hold screws held in with a hex head on the end. So you're going to want to find the right size Allen wrench, and when you take it off, make sure you put good pressure to hold the Allen wrench into the screw itself. You don't want to strip out the screw. You're going to be drilling it out. If you do, it's a huge pain, not something you want to do. Ideally, you'd replace these. I thought that a $5,000 big brake kit would come with replacements. Apparently not, so you'll see me reuse these later on, but if you're looking at this prior to buying the kit, do yourself a favor and go ahead and buy. They're like $5 a piece. If you're doing this work, this is the least of your worries. Get another set for both sides on the back. It's two different sizes on the front. So with those off, you can try to remove the rotor. It's usually fairly difficult. So you may need to use a rubber mallet to hit the rotor hat only. So you can hit the hat with the mallet. You may have to hit it quite hard to get the rotor to come free. I've had these off once already. The first time I took them off, I really had to wail on them. This really wasn't too bad, but after hitting on it, again, don't hit the rotor face or the ring, only the hat area, and again, you may have to hit pretty hard. But in this case, it didn't come off. Next thing to check would be maybe you left the e-brake on. So go around, and in fact, the e-brake was left on. So with the e-brake off, it should be much easier to remove the rotor, and it should come right off, which it does. So again, check the e-brake, hit the hat if you need to. I had previously installed StopTech steel brake hoses, so I will need to hold the brake hose as I loosen up the brake line side. And actually in this case I'm going to turn the hose because I've got more clearance. But normally you would want to turn the nut on the brake line side, which is an 11 millimeter wrench right there, and the stock BMW brake hose will not spin when you're loosening that. So you're going to see a little bit of a different approach here. It's probably not as easy as stock at this point, but it's just what I had to do. So I'm turning the brake hose to remove it from the line with a 14 millimeter wrench. And again, you will not be able to do this with the stock BMW brake hose. Before completely removing the brake hose, be sure to have a plug ready. They come in the kit, which is nice. So you'll have that ready for when the hose comes off of the line. You can cap either the line or the hose. So it'll either plug inside on the ID of the hose, or you can push it over the OD of the brake line as well. So you'll start loosening everything up. I did need to use a wrench to get in there and ended up just spinning the whole caliper around. Again, probably not the ideal method of doing this, but I'm not keeping the caliper, I'm not reusing the brake hose. So for me, it was just very easy and quick. Do whatever works for you, but in the end, you just want to make sure that the brake hose is separated from the brake line. You want to compare the old and new hoses to make sure that they're the same. And so I grabbed the new brake hose from the big brake kit. It actually is the same as the original, but I figured I might as well put it on there. There is a small washer that needs to go on there as well. It comes with a kit, and you can see it on the end of the hose. You've got to hold the line side as you thread the hose in. This is pretty much backwards of what you wanted to do, but again, in this case, I'd taken everything apart. I really just wanted to stop the brake fluid from leaking, so I put the hose on the line and plugged the hose. You'll see when I do the other three wheels. And always be sure to wear gloves when working around brake fluid. It does get everywhere, and it's not something you really want on your skin. Once you have everything plugged up, it's your choice. I prefer not to wear gloves most of the time, but do recommend it as a smart move. So with the brake hose installed, I don't have any brake fluid leaking anymore. The dust shield needs to be cut all the way around the parking brake in order to clear the rotor. So I just used a pair of tin snips, always wear safety glasses, and began cutting the dust shield off. I think if I ever do the hubs on the back of the car, I'll definitely go and just take the whole brake shield off. On the back, you can't take the dust shield off without removing the hub. So it is what it is, but very carefully cut all the way around to remove the dust shield. With the dust shield removed, test fit the rotor. Make sure that you've got the correct, in this case, right rear rotor marked on the rotor itself. In your hands, check the alignment of the holes with the hub to make sure that they match as well. And just do a test fit. See if there's any interference. See if the rotor will go on all the way. The clearance is pretty minimal with the parking brake I found, so I couldn't get the rotor to sit flat at first, and you'll see in a second here the issues I was having. Tried several times, spin it around, try to see where it hits. Use your hands to feel for on the back side. In this case, the parking brake section of the hat contacts the dust shield. So you'll want to make sure you actually trim that back almost as far as you can in order to make that clear, and you might actually have to push it back as well. So get your head back there, take a look at what you've got. There's a lot of trimming ahead. Always wear safety glasses, and as you're dealing with the smaller pieces, gloves are definitely a good idea. You start to get to a lot of small sharp pieces, and just keep clipping away. I had to test fit and cut several times. Just make sure that you're wary of where the parking brake cable comes in, as well as where the wear sensor cable sits, wherever you threw that. Make sure it's all out of the way. So always look before you cut. And like I said, test fit, cut until everything's clear. You'll know when it's not rubbing, and you're ready to move on to the next step. Once the clearance is verified on the back side of the rotor, install the retaining screws. Be smart, don't be like me, actually put new screws in. I didn't have any handy and I wanted to keep going with the project, so I put them in. The next time I have the wheels off, I'm definitely going to replace those. They're not a very easily reusable component. The torque value on it's fairly light. I believe the guide screws, it's like 25, nope, 12 foot-pounds, not a lot. So 12 foot-pounds to attach that on there. So tighten them down, go from one to the next to make sure that you make that everything's flat. You will ultimately have the wheel on there pushing everything together, but it's good just to be sure to hold everything flat. You don't need a torque wrench, just lightly tight. You'll feel when everything snugs up and goes flat. Of course, and you can use a torque wrench if you want. To move on to the installation. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you continue to watch the series. Have a good day.